Hey, Peter.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about all these fancy parts we make. I think we ought to show the people where they come from.
Sure.
Let's do it.
I got time. Let's do it. So, a lot of what we do, of course, is building engines, and we got to do a lot of custom machine work for those engines, and we do all of that over here. And I won't get you too far into that because that's really a different video. But, we do head work over here, valves, valve seats, guides, decking of heads. Over here is where we do in the CNC machine center. We square a block, make sure it's square to the center line of the crank. With the SV10, of course, we do the boring, honing, and then over here we have the manual or semi-manual hone for Alusil reconditioning, for which we're kind of known. But all of that takes place over here. This is where we have, engines come in, they get disassembled in here. We have a separate head disassembly bench for all of that. Parts get cleaned, then they go into the machining process, they get cleaned again, and then sometimes allocated over here, sometimes over here. These are engine cores that have yet to be disassembled, it makes for a very exciting area over here. Now here's where we have the real man who actually makes stuff for us. This is John Ashworth, our lead machinist. And as you can see, he's busy making U-shaped guides, like this guy. This is kind of our premier product, which just corrects a known defective part for the BMW S62 and instead makes it a lifetime part. This, with the Stanyl 46 upgrade strip and then the connection method that is so much better than the candy ass clips that are used by the stock part. Just beautiful, beautiful piece.
Oh. How about them pretty pieces of metal you got?
These
right
are pretty little pieces. These are brake brackets for our mid-tier E39 M5 Brembo brake kit, which we don't have on the market yet per se, but we've got like 3 customers right now who have ordered it. And we're making some really pretty brake brackets for them. And these have been clearanced and are in final condition, and they will be anodized, hard anodized black before they're actually finalized. But all pretty stuff. So you getting all excited about your brake brackets, John?
Yep, finishing up the rears, first around the rears now.
Gotcha. And these are the rears?
Those are the rears.
Looking pretty good.
One more out, 2 more holes.
And as y'all see when
don't
we
leave
get to
that
the
all
hanger
alone.
side, they are
Don't
huge
start talking about
bricks.
holes. This is supposed to be a family-friendly video. And this is our lathe, our CNC lathe, where we're going to be making our valve guides. We make them out of MoldStar 90, which is a wonderful bronze alloy that is motorsport quality and just means that you're never going to have to replace your valve guides ever again. And because we can do them ourselves in our lathe, we don't have to pay, $26 per guide, as I think we were paying before we could do that. So anyway, this is where all the magic happens. You can tell John's CNC machine works pretty hard. It goes pretty much nonstop, and occasionally he has to whack it in order to get it to work. That's some high-tech methodology you got going on there, John.
Always, always.
So all CNC controlled, and which just makes it delightful. We end up taking designs done by Chris Nur from SolidWorks, port them over to John. John immediately responds with criticism as to how they're unrealistic and need to be changed, and then they're finalized, and then John actually makes the parts once he and Chris, duke it out. But we wind up with some pretty cool parts. Here are a bunch of cast aluminum parts for various engines that we build. Jalen, our cameraman here, actually blasts them in our bead blasters to get them into a nice finish so that they're nice and ready to use when we need them. Nice and pretty. A lot of people have asked, do we do, the kind of the slurry blasting, wet blasting, and we don't, in part because that's a very slow process and a very expensive machine. And it doesn't provide a significantly more different finish than ceramic bead blasting. The only difference is that with the ceramic bead blasting, we need to put a little bit of a sealant on these in order to make sure that they're not super porous and don't just take, you know, oil and get stained right away. And so we do that. And actually my buddy Sretton from across the pond came up with some really good sealant that we use and really protects the finish very nicely. So kind of going on, this is kind of our what is in process, our engine dyno room. It's not done yet, but probably within the next month we will have it up and running. As you can see, we have exhausts running outside. That's a 42,000 CFM fan back there. A bunch of cool electronics right here where we'll have, you know, fuel, two different fuel hookups right here. We're going to have hookups for oil pressure and vacuum and what have you, and then cooling that comes through this pipe up top. Again, we were going to pump in humidity and temperature controlled air from our engine assembly room through this into the engines so that we can control exactly the conditions under which the engines are dyno. Why do we want this as opposed to a chassis dyno? Well, because then you can kind of experiment. You can be the mad scientist. And I can get to do what I really love to do, which is make a small change to an engine, put it on the engine dyno, see if it makes more power or less, and why. Same thing with our head flow bench over here. This basically just measures velocity and quantity of airflow through a head, and then graphs it out for you. You can also measure tumble, although we don't do that. This just gives us the ability to understand exactly when we make a different kind of porting, we use a different shape to a port of a head, or we go larger or smaller, or more or less texture on the inside, on the intake of a port, whether it's doing us good. There are plenty of heads, like for example the S65, where if you start gouging out the intake ports, you're going to do a lot more damage than you do good. You might get higher flow in certain circumstances, but you're not going to have the velocity necessary for it to actually make more power on your average car. You might make more power at cam lift levels that you're never actually going to see, but you're not going to increase power. In fact, you're going to hurt power in the more average application. This bench helps us figure that out. And this is, of course, my favorite room of all. This is our engine assembly room. It's
Best
a little
room in
messy
the
right
house.
now. This is where we control our dyno. Over here, we've got a couple of screens for the dyno and then a couple for, you know, Motec information that we get. We do a lot of harness work right here, and that's why this is kind of messy right now. When we convert, for example, an S62 harness to S54 pencil coils, I don't know if we have any one of those floating around anywhere. Well, yeah, here. This is kind of a good conversion. See, we can modify the valve cover and make these plates to accept S54 pencil coils. Why do you do that? Because you can change spark plugs and coils in about 15 minutes this way. Whereas with the standard S62 setup, you've got these coil covers, you've got these complex heavy coils and a big harness right here. And it's a big mess to change your plugs and your coils. Not to mention, it looks pretty cool. We are making billet versions of these valve covers as well, to come. But this is an S54, stroked S54 with a daily dry sump that we're doing right now. This is for my former colleague, Dusty Renteria. We've got to put on the throttle bodies and the coolant pipe, but as you can see, the valve cover has been welded up, again, because you're trying to create crankcase vacuum with your daily downward vacuum, which prevents blow-by, and also, of course, you know, decreases frictional losses because of the lack of an oil pump. And you control the amount of that vacuum by having this all sealed up, but then controlling the opening through which you are sucking air with a Peterson vacuum regulator. Again, it's just really just controlling the orifice. You take this spring out, you increase the orifice, you tighten it in, you decrease the orifice. Decrease the orifice, you're going to increase vacuum. You open the orifice more, you're going to decrease vacuum. If you can get somewhere between 15 and 22 inches of vacuum pulled on this motor, it tremendously helps it in terms of horsepower production, minimizing blow-by, and then basically having it operate as it should. In the normal case, you have to have a lot more ring friction, a lot less ring gap in order to prevent blow-by. With that kind of vacuum pulling down, you can have less, so you can have less friction, and again, more horsepower. Simple way of putting it, but it's really the beauty of a daily dry sump that, again, is creating that downward vacuum on the engine. Here's
Talk a little bit about inventory.
Oh, yeah, we're going to do that in a second. This is another S54 stroker. Got a lot of orders for those recently. This is a crank for an S65 stroker that we've gotten from Arrow. Really pretty stuff. Let's see if we can get a peek at that. Oh, yeah. Come here, baby. Oh, no, it's all covered up. But anyway, those Arrow stroker cranks for the S65 and the S85, they are absolutely the best. Speaking of S85, we got an S85 short block right there. We're about to finish up. This is our budding inventory system, which our cameraman Jalen here is slowly in control of. We're putting QR codes on all of our various parts that we use for all of our engine builds, with the idea that eventually we will be able to simply press a button and all of the parts that we need for a particular build will be listed. And then Jalen can come in here and pull the parts from a bin, put them on a tray, roll them in, and they're right there for Ray Hoover and me and Chris Nurr to build engines with. When you have all the parts right there in front of you, makes it go 10 times faster. Obviously, this is where we hang up our cranks and our camshafts. Best way to store them is this. That way they don't have any chance of getting harmed or hurt or worse, bent. Every used crank that we see is in fact actually bent a little bit. And the fascinating process for straightening them is you would think you would hit them or try to bend them back into compliance. Instead, what you do is fixture them and then bang them with a particular tool exactly where they're bent. So if they're bent like this, you bang it right there in that V, and then the metal flexes back into shape. Fascinating process. In any event, so this is where we're building motors. I think we'll go in here, show you what we got in the showroom today. Fun stuff, fun stuff. Well, we're going to start off with my embarrassment, which is my M4 GT4 build, which has not progressed in over a year. This is a car that we bought as a body in white with a cage and a fuel cell, and we haven't done anything to it, but we will. This is an S65 E92 M3 that it's just a beautiful, beautiful build. Everything about the car is spectacular, right down to the BBS wheels. I mean, it is pretty much the perfect street car. We did the heads on this car and the cams. I think we got it up to right at 410 wheel horsepower, something about like that, which is pretty good for just heads and cams. It really needs more compression to get the most out of those cams and those heads, but you know, the customer doesn't want to quite go that far with it quite yet. Such a beautiful car, really love that. Here is our longest serving car here at Partee Racing. This is a 750 IL. We did the M73 rebuild, and the reason it has taken so long is because parts for the M73 are ridiculously difficult to source, and when you do get them, sometimes they're bent or broken. They've been on the shelf for a long time, and but we did get it done. It is now beautifully running. We replaced the SLS suspension with Bilstein, and you know, did a number of other things like updated the 3V2 fuel pressure system with a regular E39 M5 regulator and return, and filter setup. Car runs beautifully. We are going to have to put in a new water-cooled alternator and a couple of new batteries, and then clean her up, and she'll be ready to rock and roll. This is we have a customer who is now, this is the third car that he has sent us. It is a Deceptive 330 Xi with a positive displacement blower on it. It probably puts out 600 wheel horsepower, but it looks like a grocery getter. But as so many builds that we get, it is beautiful, but it has some problems. Just a few issues that have to be worked out, kinks, things that rub, things that leak. A lot of times we get other people's builds like that where we're just asked to finish them, tune them, and make them perfect. And that's what we're doing here. And this is, of course, Brian Marks's wagon. It has a Stroker S54 in it. We just had a few little paint things perfected on this car. And it is just about the most perfect, I think, M3 wagon conversion, E46 M3 wagon conversion that I have seen.
Absolutely.
Really, really pretty. Yeah, I mean, that paint, man, just whoo! And along with the caramel interior, which is custom, and then our S54 stroker under the hood, and then, you know, the carbon fiber, you know, carbonious intake. And, you know, again, this puts out 412, 413, I think, wheel horsepower is what we got out of it. So, I mean, out of an S54, naturally aspirated, just gotta love that. And this is my buddy Tim Hallman's car. Some of you will remember Tim because he was the Timmy of Timmy Fest on the E39 M5 site. This is an M6 that has an S63 in it, and we are obviously forging the motor, building it out, and making some custom billet port injection manifolds for it. And we're hopeful that this is going to put out somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 wheel horsepower. I think we're going to get there pretty easily.
I'm so excited to see
Yeah,
this.
that one's going to be a bitch. Oh, I love it. This is another customer, the 330xi customer's car. Beautiful E39 M5, 2003 with like 21,000 miles on it. The original mechanic who was working on it was trying to convert it to a dry sump using the engine brackets that I designed a long time ago along with Bob Kearns. And then when it came down to it, it was going to take too much surgery to the car to do the dry sump. So he asked us just to put in one of our naturally aspirated high output motors and otherwise make the car perfect, but to delete the dry sump system. And so we have done that. And that one should be ready to rock and roll here in the next month or so. But absolutely beautiful car with a blue sport interior. Whew. The fastest color, the fastest color. Here we have a beautiful E60 M5. I'm not a huge fan of the shape of the E60 M5, but this is a really nice example. It's manual, and the S85 had a lot of work done to it. It was in great condition. The one thing the client did not do, critical, was change the valve springs. And the valve springs in the S85 and the S65 engines are notoriously weak. And this one snapped the valve spring and it ruined the engine. So what are we doing? Putting a stroker in it. It's going to be a hellaciously beautiful car. It's getting our stroker, our S85 headers, which we believe are the best in the business. Sorry, Sal. I know you think yours are the best, but we think ours are the best. It's all good. In any event, it's going to be one hell of a car. We expect to have this one done in the next 30 to 60 days. And then this, of course, is my wonderful disappointment, which is my race car, my personal E46 race car, which I bought, built, and then raced it for a few years. And then it was not performing to my satisfaction, so I gutted it and redid everything, right down to the electronics and all the fuel. And then, of course, just as I was about to finish it with an S54, I decided, oh, screw it, and we're going to put an S62 in it. And so we changed the subframe to accommodate the S62, and I don't know when we're going to finish this, but I can't wait because I did this car exactly as I wanted to do it, right down to the fire system. It has a fire system that puts out the flames and then immediately coats everything with foam to ensure against reignition. And yeah, probably ought to sell somebody those headers. But then got a nice little fuel cell in the back, daily dry sump, MCS 3-ways. This is the dash that I wired up. Anyway, one of these days I'll get back to this little masterpiece because, boy, it's going to be a fun car to drive. Okay, let's go over to the hangar side and see. You can see we've got quite a number of E39 M5s, E92 M3s. You got your M6 over there, Jalen, and man, just seeing all these cool cars just makes me a titter. Love it. Good stuff.
Not a bad day at work.
Yeah, no, exactly. If this is what you get to do for a job, man, bring it. So now we're going over to what we call the hanger side. And in between, we have what we call the industrial side, where we have our compressor, our autoclave, and all the other stuff. You don't want to see that. But now we've got, this is Matt Lambert, our super secret tuner dude. He's over there doing all sorts of wicked computer shit. And then this is the hanger side. We do the carbon fiber work we do over here, as you can see from the mold for the E92 M3 S65 airbox. This is a wagon conversion that Brandon Miller bought. We built the engine for it. The build was done all around it. Sorry, gets noisy over here. And now we are kind of making it perfect for him. Putting on MCS 3-ways all the way around, 2-ways, excuse me, and putting in our velocity stacks, converting the hubs to E60 hubs, and putting on some beautiful forged Apex wheels, along with PS4s, of course. And anyway, hopeful to have the first stage of this work done and out the door next week.
You want to give them a look at what a set of the calipers and rotors look like?
Yeah, sure. And this is James Harmon, our lead tech on this side of the shop. And, you know, occasionally he can say some smart stuff.
Yeah, James, talk to him.
But yeah, so this actually is, you know, we were talking about our kind of mid-tier brake kit for the E39 M5 that's Brembo based. We have a high-tier kit that is AP Racing based, and it's perfect, of course, but it's also $11,000. This kit in the red format is $5,500 and is $6,000 in black. Has Giro disc rotors, very nice rotors, and then these are GT350 calipers, and then matching calipers for the back. 6-pot front, 4-pot rear. We have these custom brake brackets that we make from 7075 T6 aluminum, and again, they will be hard anodized. We just kept them this way so we could confirm fitment. One of the things that we have realized is that brake brackets somewhat have to be customized. Corey!
I think that was Clark.
Have to be customized to the particular casting of the spindle in each case. Each spindle is a little different, and so we go through a process of making sure that our brake brackets fit multiple different spindles before we go ahead and hard anodize. And that's the stage where we are with these. These have been clearanced and are perfect, but they need to be hard anodized. But and again, that whole kit with the rotors is $5,500 red, $6,000 black, and really is an incredible upgrade over the stock brakes. And you know, and again, half the price of the AP kit. But if you want the best kit, of course, you're going to go with the AP. But you know, we've got, I think, 3 different cars that are getting this kit right now.
Yeah.
Brandon's getting them in black, so we had them powder coated in black, and I've got those actually sitting out in my truck today. I should have brought those in for this video, but I didn't do it. This is a customer who actually saved up for an entire year before he sent us the car because he wanted only our build and only us to do the installation and the work on it. It's, you know, one of those cars that had some mileage on it, and then they put an ESS kit on it. It ran great, and then the engine blew up. Higher mileage S62s, you put on a stock ESS kit, you can't always assume that they're going to play well, especially if you're running anything other than 93 octane gas. ESS. In any event, so we're dry ice blasting the entire car. We are installing our naturally aspirated high output motor, except for the cams, because I couldn't talk him out of reinstalling the ESS kit, so he's going to put that back in. But with the stock cams, because they make more power than the high overlap debyless cams that we use in a naturally aspirated context. But then ultimately, we'll go back to naturally aspirated And so he bought the entire naturally aspirated high output motor except for the cams. So he could just drop in cam replacements. Why is that important? Because the S62 heads have to be clearanced for any cams other than the stock. Any cams larger than stock, they will not fit without clearancing them. And yeah, you could get in there with a Dremel moto tool and a bunch of Vaseline covered rags and do it half-ass. We do it in a CNC machine and then hand deburr. It looks beautiful. This is one of my favorite cars right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the M3, we're putting a stroker, one of our stroker, 410 wheel horsepower motors in it. But this is for another customer for whom we did a, very high-end renovation of his E39 M5. And, this one, we're doing a lot of reinforcement of the rear. James, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So we're doing a weld-in-place 6-point harness, or a 6-point brace in the back that does not interfere with the rear seats.
In fact, that's it right
which
there.
This is it here on our welding table, mobile welding table. And then, so right now they are currently cutting out some of the sound deadening in order to have the plate that this bolts to sit flush. And then once this is in, it bolts in on the strut towers and down in the floor where the subframe bolts go through the floor. And are we painting this one?
Yeah, we are,
Yeah.
once we get it in the car. But we also did, of course, the car already had the underside bracing done.
Yes, it did have the bracing done where the subframe mounts.
Right.
To.
But this car is getting MCS 3-ways, true coilovers. You put true coilovers in an E46 M3, you really have to have this kind or a similar kind of strut brace and topside reinforcement in order to ensure that those strut towers hold up, because they're not built to withstand spring pressure in the stock format. And of course, we all know about the rear, the subframe being bolted to the sheet metal in the E46 M3. If you don't reinforce that, you're guaranteed to have it rip up and tear up and just become a huge mess. So this car is going to be tracked very significantly. So we went with a DS Works 6-point strut brace that goes from tower to tower, and then also goes into the floor areas where it's supposed to. And again, this is in addition to the underside reinforcement. We'll all be, we blasted it, we're gonna put it in raw, and then we're gonna paint it to match the car, which is this beautiful blue color right here. I'm not even sure that's a stock BMW color.
I'm not sure if it is either. That car was originally black.
Is it? Okay, Pastoral blue. This car also got a complete color change in the interior. It's a little messy right now because we're doing all this work, but we've got Recaro Sportster seats in true leather with heat, and we changed the dash color. We had custom door cards made, new carpeting, etc. And again, it's torn up a little bit right now because we're doing the subframe reinforcement, which requires some topside work, but it is just going to be spectacular. It's also getting a diffs online diff, 410 gears, rim polished. As I said, MCS 3-ways, and just about everything else that this model car can get, and be prepared for the track, but also be used on the street. And boy, is it a beauty.
It'd be a fun car.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really fun car. Now, this is a long-term visitor. He's getting a carbon fiber roof and then a whole bunch of other things, but we are waiting for some parts that have been in transit from Europe for, I don't know, 6 to 8 months now and never seem to arrive. So we'll see what we wind up doing with that, but it's another customer who insists on doing a blower. We do have a positive displacement, i.e. Whipple blower under development. Chris Nur's developing that fitment for both the S62 as well as the S65 and the S85. So hopefully we're going to have a blower that's capable of up to 12 to 1500 wheel installable in each of those cars. We won't expect to get that kind of horsepower out of them, but it'll be very easy to have somewhere between 800 and 1000 wheel horsepower, and of course tabletop torque that is, that you can only get from a Whipple positive displacement blower. This is a 540. Another 540 where the customer just loved the car so much he had to convert it into an M5 rather than just buy an M5. And so the conversion was done, but then it wasn't quite right. So he brought it to us, and we've had to fix a few things. But one of the things we discovered is that the paint job was not what we would have hoped for. And so it's going back to the customer with some new interior trim, new shifter, and the electrical gremlins all fixed, and some basic mechanical progress made, but without the paint being fixed. So he can then have the paint fixed.
And this is still the 540 color as well. It's Montreal blue that
Montreal
was never
blue.
offered in the M5.
Exactly, and which is really pretty. It's
a nice color.
It is a deep, rich, metallic blue. Looks a lot like Le Mans blue, but with a slightly different tint. But yeah, the paint work was not ideal. So it's going to have to be resanded, recoated with base and clear in order to be what the customer wants it to be. But it's going to be a nice car when it's done. Now, then we have my son's E39 M5, which we basically cannibalize from time to time in order to take off parts that we need. But we're about to use it as our shop development car.
Yeah, R&D.
R&D. So we're going to install a 100% stock S62 with stock exhaust manifolds. Ooh, that hurts. And a stock exhaust. Ooh, that hurts even worse. But with nice MCS three-ways and a few other changes that make it, nice and drivable. But then we're going to use that as a development to see what exact horsepower improvements each of the parts that we make contribute. So for example, our velocity stacks. People said, oh, I can't believe you get 18 to 22 wheel horsepower. Well, the dyno reports show that, but we're going to replicate that all over again.
Yeah.
Same thing with our headers when they're done. Don't ask me when that's going to be. I can't tell you. I don't know. It's a sore subject, but they will get done, I promise. And then also with our plenum, and then ultimately various little things that we do. We're just going to go piece by piece, doing back-to-back dyno runs to show exactly how much horsepower improvement is triggered by each additional change. And again, we feel like that's already been well established, but you have all the negative Nancys out there and the naysayers, and so we like to put all that to rest. This is a repeat visitor. This is a great customer's car. He came in originally, we redid the engine for the car, and it was being renovated by EAG. The customer then subsequently wanted a few other changes, like an MCS three-way system.
Yeah. Which he loves, by the way.
Yeah. This is a customer from whom, right after he got the MCS three-ways installed, it was 7:15 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and I got the call saying, Peter, you up? Oh my God, this car is amazing, and I'm like, Craig, it's 7:15, man. I haven't even had a cup of coffee yet. But it's just, I can never tell people, MCS three-way suspension on this car with installation is $14,500. That is a huge chunk of money, but it does completely transform the car. Nobody believes it until they drive it. We just had another one, Nick Morant, right?
Yeah.
Who drove off with his car, drove it 1,200 miles to Mosport from here, and the next day was saying, oh my God, I can't believe this suspension has just changed the car altogether. And again, we come up with some pretty interesting mounting locations for the MCS canisters. James, I know on Nick's car, you found a great location to mount them right here.
Yeah, so that car has the skid plate on it with the aluminum brake ducts.
Yeah.
So we mounted the MCS reservoirs to the inside of those brake ducts,
Right.
Where it faces the inside of the skid plate here, and then ran remote lines to the top to be able to adjust the nitrogen pressure in the canisters. And that way it's
Pretty
hidden, but still fully accessible.
And this particular customer kind of wanted to hide the MCS canisters. A lot of people like to see the bling. I like to see the bling. He didn't want to see the bling. And so he actually wanted them installed in the rear trunk behind the rear cubbies, which is where we put them. And very slick installation.
Yeah, we came up with a really nice plate to
Yeah.
mount those there.
Very nice, very nice. Craig wanted his in the more obvious locations. They're up top where you can see them in the engine bay. You want to drop this so
Yeah.
we can show them?
Coming down.
This car is getting some Vanos service done. It doesn't matter, it seems, whether you have rebuilt Vanos or what. If you use the car a lot, you're going to have Vanos failure, and this one's no exception. So we're giving him a brand new Vanos unit on this side and then a rebuilt one on that side and getting it ready. But here you go. Here are our custom mounts for the MCS gas reservoir canisters in the front, the typical build, just right here. So you can adjust both your gas pressure in the back with the Schrader valve and then your rebound, your compression right there. Then rebound is on the top of the shop.
And we also had to do the custom mounts for Morant because he had the Venturi intakes, which blocked where we could mount.
Right, and we did actually do some interesting testing back-to-back Venturi versus Dyno cold air intake, and I have to say the Dyno cold air intake won hands down. So much so that the customer wants to switch. We're actually developing our own intakes, cold air intakes, that are, we think, a slight improvement over the Dynons, and so he's actually going to wait for those. So watch for those to be on our website here shortly, probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then in the rear,
it's full of parts right now.
What's that?
I said it's full of parts right now.
Oh, is it full of parts?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can show at least where they. But this, all right. So it's full of parts right now. But you can see where we mounted the MCS canisters. This is where we traditionally mount them in back. Again, so you can have access to your Schrader valve easily, and then your high speed and low speed compression right here. And then rebound is on the shock. Again, very expensive upgrade to these cars, but absolutely transforms their handling, makes them feel like a car that weighs about 1,000 pounds less.
Yeah. Craig took me for a joyride in the Z8 while we were waiting to figure out logistics, and I think he's maybe one step away from bringing it here so we can put MCS on the Z8.
Oh yeah, he's already told me he's going to do that.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that's just like, I know I want to do this, but it's a lot of money. 2 minutes later, okay, do it. I understand.
The Z8 was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So M5 with no weight to it.
Right. Now, they also have flimsy subframes that I hope, in his case, are reinforced very substantially, because if not, we're going to be doing some more work on that car. But we also have kind of a budding transmission rebuild service. Dan at Diffs Online no longer does that, and with his cooperation and permission, we're kind of taking that business over for him. We're not quite ready to outsource it, to provide it yet, but probably within the next 3 to 6 months we will be. And doing 420 Gutrogs, the manual for the S65 and the S85, also the DCTs, and what have you. We also kind of have been stocking already re-welded and fully reinforced subframes for the E39 M5, but as you can tell, we're running low because those have really been going out the door. Well, we do have a couple there. I think that's the Touring, though, isn't it?
That one is the Touring subframe, yes.
Okay. But it's well, there's another one right there. But that's a necessary thing on an E39 M5 to have the solid differential front mount, and then also to reinforce all the different parts of both the front differential mount as well as the other pieces of the E39 M5 subframe that just really were not as durably constructed as they could have been.
Which we found out the hard way on this car.
Which we found out the hard way on this car because I had been hot-footing it around. I drove it up, not quite the Richmond and back, but drove it back. And then the next day, I think, was it you?
Matt.
Oh, it was Matt who got in the car, and all of a sudden the differential on the ground because the subframe snapped. So I clearly weakened it. Matt broke it. But we fixed it, and of course put in the polyfold subframe bushings. I can show you what those look like. These are the poly-filled. They're stock subframe bushings for the E39 M5, but then have been filled with poly, so that instead of there being lots of room for the rubber to squish around them, it's solid. But no NVH because, of course, it's then encased in rubber. Now you can go even harder than that, of course, with 75D or 95A poly, just like you can with the front engine mounts. Those are 75Ds. But that's going to be a little harsh on the road, perhaps. And so, and you can even go solid if you want to, but that's what I did. But I'm crazy. So, But these are the ones we put in unless otherwise specified by the customer. Those provide a really nice, balance of rigidity, but also not being so harsh that your teeth chatter. So that's about what we have going on in the shop today. It's actually kind of a light day compared to most days. We have another car arriving from Austin, another E39 M5 for a complete renovation.
Sweet.
In the next couple of days, might be here today. And then we have an S65 E92 M3 coming in from California for a complete renovation. Wants just a stock rebuild, but wants everything else while he's in there,
Yep.
And we love that. We absolutely love being able to take the car itself rather than just take a long block in, long block out, and then actually, perfect the car. And the best thing about that is I get to drive them before they go home.
And that while you're in there list gets a little long.
And then while you're in your list gets pretty heavy duty, and it enables us to do some stuff that, I might have done in my personal car, but most people have never been able to do, right?
Yeah.
And so to be able to do that to a car and then to just perfect it for them is just an amazing thing. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, so that's Peter Partee, James Harmon from Partee Racing here in good old Dan Vegas, Virginia. We say Dan Vegas because we have a casino now. So in any event, take care.